I wonder how many fans still remember the immense hope Wiseman once brought to the Warriors. However, as time has shown, Wiseman's game remains too raw, and due to the lack of a structured college training, his basketball IQ is somewhat lacking. For instance, during his time with the Warriors, he couldn't grasp their pass-and-move strategy and didn't even learn the proper positioning for pick-and-roll offense. Recently, he was waived by the Pistons and ultimately signed a 2-year contract with the Pacers. However, we all understand that if he continues to play in this raw manner as he ages, this will likely be his last NBA contract. In this issue, let's discuss the pick-and-roll, a nightmare in Wiseman's career, and how he needs to improve. In the 2023-24 season, Wiseman played 63 games for the Pistons, averaging 17.3 minutes per game, and recorded 7.1 points and 5.3 rebounds. At first glance, his basic stats seem to fit a backup role. However, let's take a closer look at the following data. As a 7 feet 1 inch big man, Wiseman only averaged 1.3 points per game from the pick and roll, with an effective field goal percentage of 55.7%. These numbers might be acceptable for a player with mediocre physical talents, but for someone with Wiseman's gifts, they are clearly subpar. As a result, the Pistons' main pick-and-roll players with Ball, Cunningham and Ivy averaged only 0.9 and 0.83 points per possession, respectively, also failing to meet the standard for core offensive players. While the handlers themselves have their deficiencies, Wiseman's pick-and-roll offense also has many issues. We'll break down his pick-and-roll in terms of pick and roll. First, let's talk about pick. When Wiseman first entered the league, his screens for ball handlers were almost ineffective. Most of his pick and rolls were fake screens. He would symbolically step forward and then immediately roll, often before the ball handler even had time to react. For example, in one instance, Curry had the ball at midcourt and planned to set up a high screen. To his surprise, he found Wiseman standing still. Curry, almost in a foot-stomping, scolding manner, told Wiseman, "Hurry up." After realizing that his lack of effort on offense had annoyed Curry, Wiseman finally moved to set the screen. However, he then made a baffling screen attempt. He set an air screen several feet away from the defender and rolled to the basket within 2 seconds, demanding the ball. When Curry showed no intention of passing, Wiseman even shook his head in frustration. Ironically, the defense was as bad as Wiseman's pick and roll. Faced with such a poor screen, the opponent opted to switch directly. Of course, they were more concerned about Curry's quick shot in tight spaces, which had nothing to do with Wiseman's poor screening. Over the past few years in the NBA, Wiseman seems to have realized that his fake pick and rolls are not well received. Consequently, he has made efforts to improve the quality of his pick and rolls. It must be acknowledged that last season with the Pistons, he executed some decent pick and rolls. His physical attributes mean that as long as he puts in the effort, he can at least provide above-average screens for his teammates. However, he sometimes falls back into old habits and unconsciously sets fake pick and rolls. For example, in one play, Wiseman sets a pick and roll with a teammate but fails to block the defender before immediately rolling and raising his hand for the ball. It's important to note that fake pick and rolls are not inherently problematic. Giannis of the Bucks is a master of fake pick and rolls, but most of his fake pick and rolls are part of the team's tactics. The Bucks rely on Giannis rolling to the rim to create offense, and the ball handler's sole task is to get the ball to Giannis. These fake pick and rolls can be considered a tactical starting move. But Wiseman is different. He is a role player and doesn't have Giannis's ability to bulldoze through tight defenses. The offensive load should still be on the ball handler, so Wiseman needs to avoid fake pick and rolls as much as possible. Additionally, Wiseman faces some specific issues with his pick and roll positioning that need to be addressed. Whether it's due to communication or other reasons, Wiseman sometimes sets screens on the opposite side of the ball handler's drive, which is not the conventional choice for a pick and roll and results in incorrect screen positioning. For instance, in the following play, the Pistons clear the strong side, placing 2 players on the weak side, with a shooter in the strong side corner to draw defense. In this situation, choosing to run a pick and roll on the strong side means the ball handler would only face one defender in the corner. However, if the ball handler drives to the weak side, there are at least 2 defenders, including DeRozan, ready to help. The essence of pick-and-roll offense is to create space and mismatches. Anyone with basic basketball knowledge knows that this play should have a screen set on the strong side to allow the ball handler to drive right. However, after his teammate got the ball, Wiseman resolutely moved to the left, intending to force his teammate into the more crowded side, facing multiple defenders. Fortunately, his teammate had the presence of mind to see the layers of defense on the weak side and abandoned Wiseman's screen, choosing to cross over to the right. Unfortunately, without the aid of a screen, he couldn't shake off the defender, and the play failed. Wiseman's tendency to rely on instinct rather than reading the defense during pick-and-roll positioning is highly frustrating. This habit prevents him from becoming a starter on any team. No matter how talented he is, consistently making the wrong decisions on the court erodes trust. Wiseman also needs to adjust his hand movements during screens, as he sometimes appears relatively amateurish in this aspect. For instance, in the following play, the Warriors run a pick-and-roll at the top of the arc with Poole handling the ball. Wiseman moves from the free throw line to set the screen, but instead of properly blocking the defender's side, he extends his hand to widen his screen range. Although Poole's speed makes the play successful, this is not a good example of screening. This kind of screen can easily result in a defensive foul. In another instance, Wiseman's push-off screen was called for an offensive foul. His arm push during the screen was very amateurish. Experienced defenders will fall at the slightest touch, exploiting this flaw. Of course, this does not mean that screens need to be entirely proper. In fact, minor movements during screens are normal, like hip or foot adjustments. No NBA team sets completely clean screens, as some adjustments are necessary to execute the play. These movements depend on the referee's tolerance. For example, in this year's playoff game between the Wolves and the Nuggets, minor movements in screens were ignored. However, even in situations where referees are lenient, Wiseman should avoid blatant hand extensions. Small hand movements are acceptable, but Wiseman's actions are often too obvious, making it hard for referees to ignore and leading to offensive fouls. In basketball, players should avoid leaving their fate in the hands of referees. Nearly 80% of Wiseman's issues with pick-and-roll stem from his pick. His roll is actually quite good, with speed and a variety of finishing moves after receiving the ball, including hook shots, powerful dunks, and even the occasional three-pointer. However, Wiseman still has a problem with catching the ball after rolling in pick-and-roll situations. For example, in the following play, the Pistons clear out the strong side, creating a 2-on-2 situation. Theoretically, this type of defense is ideal for pick-and-rolls, and catching the ball shouldn't be an issue. However, after setting the screen, Wiseman rolls directly, accelerating in a straight line with his back to the passing lane. When he sees his teammates bounce pass, he fumbles the catch, and by the time he secures the ball, the play has failed. In the previous play, Wiseman's roll catch revealed at least 2 problems. First, after rolling, he is overly eager to get to the basket, making it easy for his teammates' pass to miss. Second, he needs to communicate better with his teammate during the roll to determine whether the pass should be a lob or a bounce pass. If they aren't on the same page, it becomes easy to have issues with catching the ball. Earlier in his career, Wiseman had another problem where he would obstruct his teammates' driving lane. This issue mostly happened during his time with the Warriors, likely due to repeated emphasis from the coach. However, this problem has almost disappeared since he joined the Pistons. In summary, Wiseman needs to improve his pick-and-roll game in the following areas. First, he needs to enhance his screen positioning by reducing the number of fake pick-and-rolls, increasing the strength and quality of his screens, and communicating better with his teammates to avoid directing them into crowded areas. Second, in his rolling, he needs to learn to slow down during offensive plays, utilizing his strength and skills rather than relying solely on talent and athleticism. These are the basic elements of initiating pick-and-roll offense, but with Wiseman's talent, mastering these fundamentals will certainly help extend his career. Beyond these basic pick-and-roll skills, Wiseman can also learn some more advanced techniques. For example, He can study the short roll passing abilities of Maverick center Lively, or the handoff pick and rolls employed by Kings center Sabonis. These playmaking abilities in the pick and roll are relatively dependent on the player's basketball IQ, but they are extremely beneficial for the team's offensive development. Once Wiseman masters the basic skills, he can definitely try these advanced techniques in the future. A piece of good news is that Wiseman has joined the Pacers, who have the best defensive coach in the league, Carlisle. Carlisle is a true tactical master, and many offensive players have transformed under his guidance. However, the bad news is that Carlisle also has zero tolerance for players making tactical mistakes. Wiseman will certainly not be allowed to make amateurish pick-and-roll errors while playing for him.